September, the Olympics from Sydney, Australia on NBC, America's Olympic Network.
We represent the greatest country in the world. The way we compete, the way we never give up, the way we're proud of the struggle. And you know, if you're not willing to do everything you can as an athlete for yourself, for your team, for your country, I think you're in the wrong place. All you have to do is give everything you have with that American flag tattooed firmly on your heart, and we're going to be a huge success.
Beautiful words from John Roethlisberger, but ugly deeds at the Olympic trials have his third Olympic dream in serious trouble. At the age of 30, he had spent 2 years coming back from blowing out a knee, only to have this happen on vault. The disaster continued on the high bar. And floor was an exercise in total exasperation. Roethlisberger was devastated, but this was not his first rodeo. And he dug deep on his last opening night routine. These are the Olympic trials. It is the day of reckoning in men's American gymnastics. We're at the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts, and John Roethlisberger has every wish that he is pumping his fists when this day is done. Either way, what we're about to watch unfold over the next couple of hours is going to be compelling. For a man who dreams of going to the Olympics for a third time. In Minnesota, he promised his wife this would be it, because he is a virtual dinosaur in this sport. He is out of a guaranteed Olympic spot by over a point. That's a lot to make up in one day's work.
And things all started to go wrong with John's first performance at these Olympic trials on the vault. He just aborted it halfway through, did a 1.5 twist, got disoriented, landed, sat down. Double twisting, Sukahara right here. Wow.
A huge improvement for John Roethlisberger. And the comeback begins.
Complete and total change from what we saw the first night.
And Fred said to him, his coach, his dad, he said, the same game plan. Don't second guess yourself.
3 nationals ago, he blew his knee apart and everyone thought he couldn't come back. He did, and now he's trying to do it one more time.
This just about as good as I've ever seen John do. This is the vault he hurt himself on a couple years back at the Nationals. Nice body position in the air, makes the distance requirement. Big time.
John Roethlisberger gets a score from the judges of 9.4. That's almost a full point better than he did in the preliminaries on night 1 of the Olympic trials. We'll focus on his status in the standings in a moment. But right now, if you want to talk about big stories in this event, in American gymnastics, it's the Ham twins, Paul and Morgan. And Paul right now is in second position at the age of only 17. Everyone's waiting for him to be spooked, scared. He hasn't been.
Well, the key there, I talked to both of the Ham brothers, and his brother Morgan summed it up best. He said, Paul, no way he walks into any situation. He is never psyched out. That right there, most important quality to have in an Olympic trials. Big release skill coming up right here. This will be the test.
This kid just doesn't miss.
little bit tight, a little bit of struggle here and there, but he is keeping this all together. Big dismount, double-double. Wow!
No fear. And at every turn, Paul Hamm looks like the real deal.
17 years old, this kid has a long future in front of him. He could be one of the greats of all time.
They come from Wisconsin, and of them, Blaine Wilson, who's #1 in America, said, I couldn't even smell that type of composure when I was 17. It must be the cheese.
And Blaine Wilson also said at the beginning of this competition, I ain't gonna let a young guy beat me here.
Look at this right here, Kovacs. This is so hard, so difficult. Add on to that about 10 squared, and that's what it feels like doing at Kovacs in the Olympic trials when you're 17 years old. He deals with it magnificently.
And we thought the 9.7 in the preliminaries was good. He goes even better on the high bar at 9.775. So in this final day of the 2000 Olympic trials, Blaine Wilson continues to be state of the art. Then it's Paul Hamm, shocking everyone, as we've mentioned. Sean Townsend, who was second in the U.S. Nationals. Then Stephen McCain back in the sport and back strong. The NCAA champion, Natalie. And then John Roethlisberger in 7th position, and that is absolutely critical in considering his Olympic future. Hi, everybody. Al Troutwig along with Olympian Tim Daggett and Canadian Olympian Elfie Schlegel. And what the story is here, Elfie, is really all about top 4, and then you leave it up to a selection committee, right?
Well, basically, at the conclusion of this competition, along with the scores from the national championships, on paper, those top 4 athletes are secured a spot to the Olympic Games. But 5th and 6th place is basically up to the committee to decide if there are any weaknesses in the top 4. Those are the athletes that will get that spot.
Well, Tim, if that's the case, and John Roethlisberger is over a point out of that 4th spot, what are his chances to pull this off?
Well, he still has a very good chance because he's got some events that are very strong. His still rings, his high bar, potentially his parallel bars, even pommel horse. He's a contender. If John Roethlisberger goes out and does the job he's capable of, he can be in the hunt, no question about it.
All right, let's pick a bubble spot. Who's your favorite to take one of those 2 extra positions?
Well, I guess John Roethlisberger, really. This is a veteran who can bring so much to this Olympic team, and if he's out of that top 4, then I'm going to go with John Roethlisberger.
All right, Tim, who's your pick?
Well, I would say John is definitely a contender, but there are other guys that fill some voids, no question about it. Morgan Hamm, Paul's brother, very, very strong on floor exercise, strong on vaulting, and also can do rings. There's a guy named Justin Toman. If John Roethlisberger falters a little bit today, he could be in the hunt as well.
It'll all play out over these 6 amazing rotations today in Boston, Massachusetts.
Another guy that could factor in here, no question about it, Jamie Natalie. He's on a roll. Talked to his coach just before the competition. They came in with a plan, said it worked beautifully the first day. More of the same. This is a kid that can get the job done. He's the current NCAA all-around champion. His biggest test comes right off the bat. Does a very tricky and intricate combination into a release skill. If he gets that, he's going to be on a roll. I'm telling you, he's going to be in the hunt. Here we go, right here. Right into a release. Right. Very difficult. Tons of bonus points right there. Tough competitor, this kid. Just the dismount. Sticks it. It's big time.
Wow. Wow.
Gigantic.
Everyone was talking about how sloppy the gymnastics was in the preliminary here at the Olympic trials. So far today, sharp. And this is a guy who is turned on by big crowds, not intimidated by them at all.
His coach, Miles Avery, said the best thing that Jamie said to him this morning at breakfast was, I'm making the team, coach. I'm going after it.
A little too friendly there, buddy.
The NCAA champion from Ohio State. And now the Texan, Sean Townsend, who finished 2nd at the U.S. National Championships.
And this is a good one to get out of the way for Sean Townsend. If he has one weakness in the sport of gymnastics, that comes on the pommel horse. He knows it, his coach knows it, everybody knows it. Gets through this one, he's on the team. Very tricky combination. No problem so far. One more of those Russian elements. Great fight here. Got a little bit ahead right in the beginning, but dealt with it very well. Just the dismount.
The men are getting it together.
They all want it.
Sean Townsend's lead over Stephen McCain in 4th place was like 0.04 of a point. Here's the stud of the American team, and it's that stud that's gotten Blaine Wilson in all sorts of trouble this week. See, a couple of years ago, he stuck out his tongue. He had a stud. And virtually every newspaper in America this week wrote a story about he's the rebel with a cause, blah, 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 blah. Well, we've shown you the teammate that Blaine Wilson is.
Big vault here, handspring double front. All about the landing. Oh!
And the competitor that he is.
You know, Ron Grant said they're trying to set some challenges for Blaine at this competition. He says it's important for him to stick landings. That's going to help him in Sydney.
He just explodes off of this horse. There was a time when Blaine struggled on the landing of this vault. No more.
He's got a lot more energy on this vault. Look at that height.
That's three times around from board to ground. With a little bit of extra power, that step forward, but that is just fine and dandy for Blaine Wilson.
Jamie Natalie says one of the highlights of his collegiate career was beating Michigan with a big-time high bar routine. What about a 9-9? Yes, more than nice.
Yeah!
Meanwhile, Sean Townsend puts up a 9.425 on the pommel horse, so everybody looking solid so far. Blaine Wilson's tally from the judges when we come back on NBC, providing you coverage of the 2000 Olympic trials.
The U.S. Olympic Gymnastics trials are brought to you by Pontiac Grand Am, proud sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. By SmithKline Beecham, the makers of Paxil. By Visa, worldwide partner of the Olympic Games. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. And by Powerade, whatever you do to get up for the games, stay up. Powerade on the field of the Olympic Games.
The pride of John Roethlisberger took a major hit in the opening night of the Olympic trials. But he has not moved up in spite of performing much better on the vault here so far in Boston, Massachusetts. So here's the story. Blaine Wilson got a 9.65. The crowd here, which is really into their gymnastics today, booed resoundingly. Paul Hamm remains in 2nd place. Stephen McCain and Sean Townsend flip 3rd and 4th. Now it gets difficult and complicated. For Jamie Natalie, for example, the defending NCAA champion, Morgan Hamm in 6th, and John Roethlisberger still in 7th. Top 4 go to the Olympics. The other 2 are picked by committee. We resume with Paul Hamm, who is 2nd after that first rotation. And you do not want to allow yourself to have to go to a committee, because then they try to fill slots and holes and specialties. And the specialty that the team needs may not be yours.
And that's the problem that a gymnast like Jamie Natalie could easily have. He could end up 5th in this competition, no question about it. Easy. He's good enough to do that, but his strengths
today too
aren't really the strengths that the team needs. Paul Hamm, this is one of his best events, getting ready for floor exercise here. Trains at Swiss Turners.
And his coach is up there with him, Tim. Stacy Maloney, he told me just before the competition, he's going to keep...
That's going to be it. Let's do it. Be a rock, Paul.
He's going to keep telling Paul and reminding him to keep one step ahead of his body. Just keep thinking about the next move.
He's younger than Morgan by 30 minutes, and they don't even want to think about what would happen if one went to the Olympics and the other did not.
So they both got a good shot of going there. No doubt about that. This is one of Paul's strongest events. I would say this routine right here is in the top 3 in the country for most difficult exercises on all the events for the men. Starts right in the beginning, full twisting double layout. Oh boy. Wow. Now that's unbelievable, because he might have lost a 1/10 of a point on that. And just about every other guy would not have been able to recover He was so off on his transition from skill to skill, but that's why this 17-year-old is sitting in second place at this point. Hear that bell in the background? That means he has 20 seconds to complete his exercise. Dismount, big one, double layout somersault.
Very uncharacteristic there.
Yeah, you know, it's such a hard routine, but he really hopped around a little bit, gave away a tenth or two. It's not going to hurt him all that much, but not the routine that he can do.
Okay, he admitted to us that after the first day of competition, he was tired both mentally and physically.
He's got a big cushion over third place, so he's got some room for error.
So watch what he does here. Not only does he flip twice in a laid out position, but he'll do a full twist on it. Very few gymnasts can perform this as easily as Paul does. Actually looked like he was going to stick that cold. Takes a small hop. Now watch this second pass here. He is just way off, but he is so strong and so tough. This is way too high. He doesn't get anywhere near rotated enough on that second flip, but...
And what's so awesome about this performance is what he ends with. He looks as strong in this final tumbling pass as he did at the very beginning of the routine, but makes a very uncharacteristic step right here. It's going to cost him a teeny bit.
The score for Paul Hamm is 9.35, so that's well below the 9.7 he scored in floor exercise in the preliminaries. From the high status of Paul Hamm now, we go to Jamie Natalie, who sits in fifth after the first rotation. And again, top four guaranteed spots. Then two others are picked by a committee. This is Jamie Natalie now, who sits, as I mentioned, in that fifth spot. So he's on the outside looking in terms of a guarantee. He's got all the enthusiasm. He's great on the high bar. But on the other five events, he's pretty much, when you look at the numbers, a 9-2 gymnast. That's a big problem for him,
that
right?
is a problem. It's a good problem to have if you're good enough to make it in that top four. And he's right on that bubble there. But if you don't have two or at least three events that you can get that 9.9, 9.7, it really hurts you in that category. This is a place, though, where Jamie Natalie actually can get a big score. He has oftentimes, though, just bobbled a little bit here and there.
And as Coach Miles Avery said that he was going to continue to remind him throughout the meet. He said he's the type of athlete that can put a little bit pressure on, tell him this is for real, kid. You have to do it now.
Other than the high bar, this has been his best event at the Nationals and here at the trials. First day of the Nationals, he put up a 9.55 on floor.
Does a little bit of an unconventional last tumbling pass. We see a lot of these bounding combinations done in the first or second pass. He dismounts with it, brings him 5/10 a bonus. Holds on to that landing. Does that yellow flag go up? That was really close. I'm going to have to chat with Bill Martin after the competition, ask him about that. That looked like he won.
By a whisker, he stayed in bounds.
Wow.
Now, boys.
What did he say? Do the math?
Yeah, I think I got to tell you, he's having about as great of a competition as one can have, and that's all you can ask. It's the Olympic trials, man. No better way than going out with the best meet of your life.
If you like rah-rah in your gymnastics, we have your man, Jamie Natalie from Ohio State, 9.625. So he's walking the walk and talking the talk. Here's Sean Townsend, fourth after the first rotation. This is one of those events now. He's on the still rings where he had a major problem in the first night here at the trials.
And that really shouldn't happen because he's very good on rings. But every once in a while, I don't know what happens with Sean. Loses a little bit of focus.
Now, Tim, this is a gymnast who's come a long way in a year. What's the biggest difference?
He's a tremendous athlete. First of all, he's physically very strong, as you can see right there. But he is also a big-time fighter. That is, if you have to put a finger on the most important quality, you got to be tough, and that's what Sean is.
He also mentioned to me that after watching Blaine Wilson and seeing his success, he sort of has a good idea of what he needs to do to get it done.
Well, he is just about done with this exercise. Dismount remaining. That's a big one to have done for Sean Townsend.
And that's a huge difference from the 8.4 he put up on day one. We're still in the second of 6 rotations here in Boston. And the Fleet Center has sounded like the Celtics are coming back in the fourth quarter or the Bruins are scoring a goal in overtime.
Thanks, man.
To Blaine Wilson on the parallel bars.
You know, he really has no competition, to be perfectly honest, at this event, but he has a lot to accomplish here. This is his last major outing before the Sydney Olympic Games. This is a guy that could win the first ever all-around title for the U.S. men. He has a legitimate shot of doing that, but he needs to be more perfect, to be honest, than he has been for that to happen.
Peter Corman called Blaine Wilson on night one of these trials the best he's ever seen him.
Parallel bars, an event that Blaine could make finals on and have a shot to win an individual event medal as well. Tell you how you win a championships, though. You got to stick. Small hop right there. No problem for tonight, but in Sydney, things like that, they add up big time. Blaine knows it, too.
Pick the feet up too fast, though. Got to swing through a little more. Giants were good. Better form on it.
That's Ron Brandt, the coach of the U.S. team in Colorado Springs. So to the older twin, Morgan Hamm. Coming into today, he was in 6th position. And if you're in 6th position, you better, as Tim Daggett said earlier, be good in 2, 3, or even 4 events. Can he say that?
Yeah, he can say he's great here.
Yeah, this is by far his best event. And Stacy Maloney, his coach, he said, you know, he's really feeling the pressure coming into this competition. He told him, just stay aggressive, keep doing it.
And that's what's so good about Morgan on floor. He squeezes, he doesn't panic, holds on to those landings. Look at these flares, beautiful extension. Morgan's battled with some injuries throughout his career, and Stacy, his coach, said elements like that he does a little bit better than Paul, because a lot of times he couldn't do some of the other elements, and he could spend a little more time refining skills like that.
The problem for Morgan Hamm, Jamie Natalie, John Roethlisberger is that the distance between them and 4th place is a real chasm right now. It's a big distance.
Same dismount we saw from his brother Paul. Double laid out somersault. Oh, baby. Yikes.
Everything looks so great when you stick it.
Yeah, see, I gotta tell you, a routine like that, even that one, that helps a lot. That's not just a score you can live with in Sydney. That's a score that helps this team a lot. That's big-time gymnastics.
In the Nationals and here at the trials, Sean Townsend has not scored as high as that on the rings. 9.725. Blaine Wilson just keeps it going, and he's about to go into his private musical world. 9.725. He played golf today. The guy's cool. Now to Stephen McCain, our first look. And if you were with us at the U.S. Nationals, remember the story of Stephen McCain. He missed on the 6th and final rotation at the Olympic trials, did not make the team, went down to South Africa, spent time with a friend, said he should have been depressed, but it was the time of his life. And somewhere along the way, rededicated himself to the sport of gymnastics.
Ron Bren said that after the first day of competition, he really felt that Steve gave it his best. He said he fought well, but I'm not seeing enough of it. He needs to give just a little bit more today.
Very strong, close to perfectly level on those inverteds. He struggled right here in the first day. Much better today. One of his coaches, Vitaly Marinich, said, I can always tell, I just look into Steve's eyes and I can tell if it's good or it's bad. He said it looked good today.
He's fighting.
He held on. And Tim, a lot like women's gymnastics at LP2, a year ago, this is a team that didn't look like it could do much. It wasn't deep, it wasn't talented beyond Blaine Wilson and Jason Gatson, who's out of the situation right now.
They're good enough to win a medal. A lot of things have to happen, but this team can win a medal in Sydney.
We said Morgan Hamm would put up a big number off the floor exercise, and he did, 9.75.
It's a big number. I think it was actually a little too low. It was tremendous.
You saw the big number from Sean Townsend. Stephen McCain responds with a 9.525, and this all complicates the lives of Jamie Natalie, Morgan Hamm, and John Roethlisberger, because they are keeping that fourth and final spot out of reach. Now, in John Roethlisberger, you're talking about a lot of pride. Father was an Olympian in '68. Sister was an alternate in 1984. It is the blood that runs through the Roethlisberger veins.
Gotcha, buddy.
His father and he have had a sometimes testy relationship, but it's all about succeeding and achieving as high as they can in gymnastics. If John doesn't make it into the top 4 spots, Tim, what do you think?
Well, I got to tell you, John and his father, they're traditionalists. They don't like the changes of the rules. They think it should be straight all around.
Just a great one, John, just like we've been practicing it. Let's go.
They think the team should be picked by the top 6 all around.
It's not a problem. Come on, buddy. You got it.
Got a feeling, talking to Fred, that if John doesn't place in the top 6, even if he was chosen, there's a chance, I don't know, he might say, sorry, I didn't earn it. Biggest challenge comes right here. Much better than he did the first day of competition.
When he got a 9-0.
Oh, little bit of a struggle there. No big deal, though. John looks like a different guy today, completely in control, dealing with his problems. Much better than day one, got to tell you that.
Could have been better. Good job, John. High bar.
You heard Fred. He's already focused on the next rotation.
That was a great routine.
Grab my honey.
We'll update the scoreboard and standings after this. Back at Beantown at the Olympic trials, John Roethlisberger gets a 9.425, but slips into the 8th position. Let me tell you what's going to happen at the conclusion of the trials today. It's going to be very dramatic. The selection committee is going to go into a room here at the Fleet Center, and then a few minutes later, they're going to march all 17 athletes who are competing here today out onto the floor, and then alphabetically, the 6 men who will represent the United States in Sydney at the Olympics will be announced. The 4 who get there by the standings and the 2 who are picked by the committee. You are going to see a display of emotions at all ends of the spectrum before we're done here in Boston today. Jamie Natalie has been the #1 gymnast so far here today through 2 rotations. Even better than Blaine Wilson. Still, he's a full point behind when you consider the weighted numbers that are going into this. 40% at the Nationals, 60% at the Olympic trials. A full point is a lot with 4 rotations to go. So all Jamie Natalie can do is continue to go out there and put up big numbers like he has so far. As we mentioned, the best numbers today of anybody. He says in 10 years he'll be an overweight, successful sports medicine doctor who coaches gymnastics in his spare time. But right now, here today, he's a heavyweight, not overweight.
Yeah, it really is. His biggest problem is not what he's capable of doing, but he needs a little help from either Townsend or McCain. They've got to be a little off, and he's got to be doing what he's been doing all day long. And in this pommel horse routine, he's got to be perfect.
Nice, come on. To the end now.
Don't know of a sport where momentum doesn't help. And this is one of the best routines I've seen Jamie do on horse.
Yeah, as Coach said, he has got the Olympic spirit. He is more focused for this one.
Oh, man. I don't know if Jamie Natalie is on his way to Sydney or setting himself up for one of the biggest disappointments of his gymnastics life, but he is entertaining us along the way. From Hockessin, Delaware, and Ohio State. And he seems like the kind of guy who can really feed off the energy of a crowd like this. At the head of the vault runway, we find Sean Townsend, strep throat, feeling lousy, feeling weak. How about the bad timing of that? You're performing at the highest level you ever have in your career, and you come to the Olympic trials, and you get strep throat.
And you got to do a triple front on vaulting. That's just a little bit crazy, but it's this guy. He can do it, though. Wow.
Wait till you see in slow motion how much went on up in the air.
That was unreal. That was so close to being as perfect as I've seen this vault done 3 times around. 1, 2, pull for that ground.
Almost stuck that
Look,
landing.
he's got it. Off to the side.
And now we go to Blaine Wilson, who loves to show off on the high bar. The leader after 2 rotations. I mean, he's just been the leader for years. That's it, plain and simple.
About 2.5 minutes ago, Blaine, in the one-touch warm-up, missed his release move, and that would send chills of fear through any other gymnast. Blaine probably doesn't even remember that he did it. Comes right here. No problem. Most interesting combination comes right here. Full and a half twist.
Wow.
Talked about Blaine's in this meet for a different reason.
Yeah, it's more than just the routine itself. It comes down to landings, too. This is the last thing they see.
Yes. Imagine that he did that with a rotator cuff that was once torn, and the doctor said it may never be 100%. Well, they were wrong. So the Fleet Center still buzzes. Jamie Natalie puts up a 9.25 on the pommel horse. Meanwhile, Sean Townsend continues to keep the distance. 9.8. And again, the top 4 scores as they continue to be piled high. The other guys just can't catch up. Now here's Morgan Hamm, 6th after 2 rotations. He's one of the gymnasts that may have to be considered by the committee. Is he versatile enough and consistent enough to contribute to an overall Olympic team effort?
He wasn't consistent in day 1 of the competition on this event. I think it surprised not only his coach, but probably more Morgan.
But he can do horse, no doubt about that. Has a very good basic circle. I think he did let the pressure of the competition get to him a little bit in day 1. Nice body line, extended position. Very nice, very clean set so far. Oh, he's going to take that one.
I'll tell you what, if there's one thing you do not want to be today in Boston, it's on that selection committee.
Good, good, good.
Oh,
That's all right, you did great. It was overall, it was a really clean set. We're a little off balance in these spots, but it's going to be hard to notice. You get a good score.
Stephen McCain ready to vault. Now, here's how complicated it is for everyone below the 4th position. All Stephen McCain needs to do to stay ahead of Jamie Natalie in 5th place right now is record an 8.276.
And if everything goes as planned, that is no problem at all. Ooh. Big step on that landing forward. He also has a deduction because he's a little bit short on the distance. But certainly will be well above that low 8.
Blaine Wilson, 9.875. And a high bar routine that got a huge ovation. And there's John Roethlisberger in his deep trance. Every time I've seen John Roethlisberger today, backstage, on the podium, when he's not performing, he's sitting there in deep thought. Meanwhile, Morgan Hamm has been inconsistent in the trials and the USA Championships on the pommel horse, but today at 9.475. On night 1 of the Olympic trials, John Roethlisberger was a human Titanic, crashing at every turn. So far here, it's been smooth sailing. He'll be on the high bar next, trying to move up, something he didn't do last rotation.
The U.S. Olympic Gymnastics trials are brought to you by John Hancock, official worldwide sponsor of the 2000 Olympic Games. By Powerade. Whatever you do to get up for the games, stay up. Powerade on the field at the Olympic Games. By 1-800-CALL-ATT for collect calls. And by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of the 2000 U.S. Olympic team.
Back at the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts, moving through the 3rd of 6 rotations in the U.S. Olympic trials. With Beth Ruyak, Tim Daggett, and Elfie Schlegel, I'm Al Troutwig. We zoom in again on the story of John Roethlisberger. If this is how his Olympic quest ends today, he's going to go down fighting. Ready to mount the high bar with his father right there.
I tell you, some things in gymnastics, it's just a fluke. John missing his hand in day 1. In my wildest dreams, I wouldn't imagine it happening. I've never seen it occur with John. You see it happen all the time with other gymnasts, not with guys like John Roethlisberger.
Yeah, and Fred, his father said he was in absolute disbelief when that happened.
Beautiful. Full spin right to handstand. His release right here. This is where he had problems. Night 1 right here. Grabbing the bar. None today. Lands this dismount. It's his best effort all week.
He has got to be asking himself, where has this been? His problems didn't just start on day 1 of the Olympic trials. He had a nationals performance which made him physically sick.
Keep cooking, Johnny.
But today it's good for John Roethlisberger. Now we go to the pommel horse, Paul Hamm. Second after 2 rotations and looking really good to go to the Sydney Olympics.
Looking really good, but if you got an event in men's gymnastics that's similar to women's balance beam, it's pommel horse. Now this guy is great on horse, but he's 17 years old. He's never been in a meet like this before. You just got to think that he's going to start feeling nerves sometime, but he just keeps on cooking. Very difficult 1 pommel work, but he also has tremendous clearance over the pommels. Completely straight body when he swings. Well, this is a fantastic exercise. I doubt we'll see anybody do a better one than that all night long.
You might look at his resume and say not enough international experience to go to an Olympics and do something yet.
Rhythm.
The American coaches, Ron Brand, Peter Corman, they think this is an even bigger pressure cooker and that getting to the Olympics would actually be a relief, less pressure. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. And these guys, they don't feel any pressure. They say, hey, if we don't make it this time, we're 17. We could probably make 2 more.
Let's go back over and record the number for John Roethlisberger. His best of the day, 9.625. But again, he's got a big margin to make up. So does the very popular Chris Young. His Achilles tendon didn't know about his dreams, and it snapped in January, and it's been a difficult and long comeback. At the age of 27, he petitioned into these trials. His story is amazing. Once upon a time, a little boy grew up in North Carolina.
You know, I got a lot of friends that are selling drugs right now. I got a couple of friends that are dead right now. I sit and I wonder, I say to myself, if gymnastics wouldn't have been there for me to keep me out of trouble, what exactly would I've been doing? That could have been me. Come on, come on. That's just the way it is. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. Things will never be the same. I had 3 sisters that I grew up with. I was the only boy. That's just the way it is. My dad wasn't there when I was 8, 9. So it would have been real easy for me to do the things that I shouldn't be doing. That's just the way it is. But my mom was a strong person.
Some things will never change.
She just didn't want me to take that road.
He needed a man figure in his life. So I decided to call big brothers and big sisters. First, I wanted to keep him out of a lot of trouble, for one thing. And I know, me being a mom, they need more than just a mom.
Big brother Ron Brown arrived to meet Chris and found him playing and tumbling on an old mattress in the yard. He noticed something special, too, so he took him to a local gym in Winston-Salem where he met the man that would change his life.
I can clearly remember the day he came into the gym. Chris came in, he was a little intimidated at first.
You know, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm watching the girls tumble, and, you know, I could do what they're doing.
And he went out there and did a round off back handspring, backflip, sky high, and a few other things that amazed us all.
And he had this just look on his face like, okay, we got to figure out a way to keep this kid in the sport.
Bob Kohut did more than that. He made Chris part of his family, steering, helping, and softening the hard times.
He has a real big heart, and he'll help anybody that he can. And I think he just saw that, hey, this kid is talented. This kid has potential to do great things.
So even though he wasn't able to afford going to the meets and that sort of thing, I'd have him work it off.
Cut the grass, took out the trash at night after practice. I did all kinds of stuff like that. And Bob literally paid for everything.
That was our guardian angel, me and Chris. When Chris does not come to me with something, it's all right if he go to Bob, because I know he's going to be there to guide him.
Chris really became my adopted son to a certain extent. I can remember he'd come to the gym and he would say, Bob, I've got a headache, I'm not feeling well. And as I got to talking to him, you know, I realized that, you know, he hadn't had any dinner that day. So I'd send him up to my office and tell him to take a few bucks out of the wallet and get himself a bite to eat.
He's just a great man. I mean, that's my idol.
He was there for me to help save my son.
Lily's son was more than just saved. He had become a gymnast at the highest American level. The next dream was logical.
Chris Young, the Olympian, would be a phenomenal, absolute dream come true. It would be the greatest thing in the world.
If I make it, I'm going to be the happiest man in the world. If I don't, I'm still going to be the happiest man in the world. Because I defeated the odds.
Life can be as kind as it is cruel. And here is Chris Young, and for him, there will be no Olympics. You are looking at the happiest last place finisher that you've ever seen in an event like these Olympic trials. Dad's back in his life. He's here at the Fleet Center. With pride, Mom went with him last year to the World Championships in China.
And you know, you talk about being happy. I've known Chris for so many years. I saw him when he was just a little boy at a summer gymnastics camp, and I can't say I've ever seen this young man without that right there, that smile on his face.
This will be the end of a career at 27, and after this, he has dedicated his life to building a gym in Winston-Salem so that he can be to kids of the future what Bob Kohut was to him.
And right there, that's magic.
Something I've noticed that Chris has done throughout the competition is every time he's finished his routine and landed, he's just taken a little extra time to savor the moment.
Thank God for the Bob Kohuts of the world. Back at the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts, and for a while when we crunched the numbers, it didn't look like it was possible for Jamie Natalie to put up high enough numbers to catch 4th place and secure a spot on the Olympic team. But he is making that move, and right now trails by a little over 7/10 of a point. With 3 events to go, it's very doable. He'll be watching Stephen McCain with great interest. Now, every gymnast pretty much will tell you the story of a full family commitment to get to any high level in the sport. And Jim and Betsy Natalie have come from Hockerson, Delaware to here in Boston, Massachusetts. They probably cruised up I-95. Now in the standings, here's what we're talking about. Blaine Wilson continues to be the man, has been for years. Paul Hamm, the shocking 17-year-old, very comfortably in 2nd place. Then it's Sean Townsend and Stephen McCain, who've gone back and forth a little bit here today, 3rd and 4th. Then it's Jamie Natalie, Morgan Hamm, John Roethlisberger, Gard Young from Brigham Young. Those are the names that will be vying for the extra 2 spots. 4 are guaranteed, 2 will be chosen. It'll all be played out on the mat here, center stage at the Fleet Center later.
Come on, Jamie, be strong.
If Jamie Natalie has a weakness, it's his static strength parts. They are not exactly perfect in position. That one's pretty darn good today. I tell you, not bad. This one's a little bit high. But this is about the best I've seen Jamie Natalie look on rings. I think I've been saying that all day long, haven't I, about this kid? Double, double.
Come on, Rob.
Feeling strong's in the house.
He's got a lot of Blaine Wilson's cocky confidence in him, but the way he's delivering today, enjoy the day.
Nice dismount, a little bit change of pace, double twisting, double somersault. Actually got a little funky on that giant before. It pulled a little bit too hard here. Takes that step back. That'll cost him 2/10 of a point.
So the top men hold firm. Jamie Natalie should stay where he is. Meanwhile, we watched Paul Hamm a moment ago put up a 9.85 on the pommel horse. He'll stay in 2nd. On floor exercise, we re-find the 5-time national champion, Blaine Wilson.
And this is an event that he just rocked at the World Championships.
Tim, where does he get all the extra bounce that the other guys can't get?
Well, you know, he's a strong, physically very, very strong kid. He's put together very well, hasn't had the major leg injuries. What he can do really well is stick these passes, but right there.
Just a really small hop that's going to cost a 10th. Again, Ron was saying we need to get a little bit more nitpicky on these tumbling passes, on all the landings.
That one much better.
even though Blaine Wilson is a shoo-in for this Olympic team, you know, he really felt that he needed this step. The national championships, the Olympic trials, he needed these 4 competitions to feel really prepared going into Sydney.
Full twisting double somersault. Wow! That's the kind of gymnastics Blaine Wilson has to do. Explanation point on the exercise. We said all day long, it's really not about Blaine Wilson making his Olympic team. I don't care what he says. He's going to Sydney anyway.
You owe me one. 2 out of 3.
The dismount, definitely the high point of this exercise. Very difficult, full twisting double somersault. Lands it with authority. This is what Blaine has to do on every exercise in Sydney. If he does that, I predict this guy's going to come home with a medal in the all-around, maybe even a gold one.
See the crowd here holding up all their 10s. We have not seen one of those yet here at the Nationals or at the Olympic trials. The unquestionable leader, Blaine Wilson. Jamie Natalie, 9.325. Should he be happy with that, Tim?
Well, it was a very good score, actually. The best that he's done in this entire trials process. I got to tell you, though, that 2/10 that he gave away on that landing, that could very seriously come back to haunt this young man.
Elfie, what do you think? 9.75 on the floor.
Well, I think Blaine is sending a message to the rest of the world of how he's performing here at the Olympic trials.
Meanwhile, John Roethlisberger buckles up that knee brace. It will take a pounding in the floor exercise, which for him is next.
As a child in Puerto Rico, diving for Mark Ruiz was just fun and games. But his mother realized his extraordinary talent and risked everything she had to further his training in the U.S. Today, after dominating the Olympic diving trials, Mark is America's best hope for gold in Sydney. The Olympic Games on NBC, coming September 15th.
Remember, good positions through the bottom and be a rock. Do it like Blaine.
That's what coaches have been saying for 5 years. Do it like Blaine. Morgan Hamm.
And this is actually a very strong routine for Morgan. Very physically capable on this exercise, even more so than his brother. Excellent position. That's called a Maltese. Nice inverted handstand. Does it twice. A little bit of a struggle on that shoot to handstand, but this is an important exercise for those 5'6" guys because rings has been a weak event for Team USA.
He certainly listened to his coach and thought about the positions.
Very good, strong set from Morgan Hamm.
Awesome.
They call it awesome. Now to Stephen McCain. If he's looking at the scoreboard, he knows he's still in pretty good shape in 4th place. He knows that he needs an 8.55, for example, to stay in 4th. But that number that he needs is getting a little bit higher each and every time, isn't it?
It is, and I tell you, with Stephen McCain, I hope he's not looking at the scoreboard. I hope he's not listening to the announcer because that is what messes this young man up. Trickiest combination comes right here. Oh, that's fantastic. No question about it. This guy has always had the goods, always been capable. Just sometimes thought a little bit too much. Didn't go on autopilot, and man,
great.
We are seeing some clutch gymnastics today.
Yeah.
So it looks as though the 4th place is solidified. And again, you talk about a John Roethlisberger. It's been nearly impossible for him to move up today in spite of having his best day, including the Nationals and the first day here at the Olympic trials.
This is John's biggest challenge, floor exercise. He had not 1, but he had a couple of big mistakes the first day, and he's been carrying some problems around with him on this event, not just at the Olympic trials, but all year long. Struggled on some of these passes.
You remember that shot of John Roethlisberger laying on the mat in Atlanta with a tear streaming down his face. They thought it was an opportunity lost for the American men at the games in '96. And that day, the dream to return and go to Sydney was born. And here today, that dream is playing out.
Critical first 2 tumbling runs. They're connecting passes.
Worth a lot of bonus points.
Right on today.
Whoa, was he close to going out?
One more time for John. This one actually can be a little bit even more complicated. No problem. This is the John Roethlisberger that we are accustomed to seeing.
Relief, confusion, joy. Just have to think, for John Roethlisberger, is it all happening too late?
I gotta tell you though, he is so good today with his reputation and the way he's performing now. Dismount of heroic proportions right here. Full twisting double somersault. You see the leg obviously braced up. Most people would have given up, would have packed in a third Olympic try.
And Tim, when he stuck that landing, was saying, man, did that feel good.
Now Morgan Hamm scored a 9.45 on the rings. And so did John Roethlisberger on the floor. So this battle intensifies with just 2 rotations to go. And back to the score of Stephen McCain on the parallel bars, 9.675. Remember, he was smooth and solid and stuck the landing. Back at the Fleet Center in Boston, Blaine Wilson's status remains unchallenged. He's the leader after 4 rotations. We're down to the final 2 apparatus. The Olympic team is starting to take shape. As you look at the standings, remember the top 4 are guaranteed spots in Sydney. Sean Townsend and Stephen McCain, barring something horrible on their last apparatus, are going. But Jamie Natalie has been very, very good today. He started at the Nationals in 7th and has slowly moved up. Now he is in 5th. Is he good enough to be selected? We will find out before the day is over. What about John Roethlisberger? Does he get selected? If he gets selected, will he elect to go, or will he decline because he didn't earn it? All these things remain to be figured out here at the Fleet Center. But right now, it's just a matter of checking out Blaine Wilson, who continues to display an absolute state of readiness for the Olympic Games.
It's a critical routine for Blaine, though. Very important. If there's one overall event where internationally he opens the door just a little bit, it's on pommel horse. He needs to open his body, show a nice clean swing. He's capable of doing that. Sometimes gets a little bit tight. All this one pommel work. Very difficult, gets those bonus points. Now do a Russian element on the end. 3 times around. Actually, very good dismount for Blaine. Looks a little more physically prepared today, has the endurance. Sometimes struggles there. Good exercise for Blaine. So those one pommel elements that just about all the best gymnasts in the world, they open up with. Very, very difficult to stay on this one pommel. If you do 8 elements in a row, you get the maximum bonus that you can connecting this one pommel work. And why is it hard? Because you have no room. There's very little room to put your hands down. They got to go in the exact spot. He deals with it very well.
And Blaine Wilson gets a 9.65. That ties his best score both at the Nationals and here at the trials. Now Sean Townsend, again, this is just about holding on to what you've got.
Yeah, but the only problem, Al, is he's got to let go 2 times in this exercise. 2 times that he wishes he didn't have to, but that's high bar. All this stuff doesn't matter right here. Whoa, fingertips.
Does it one more time.
Both in combination. That one a little closer. I gotta say it, don't want to call it out of the park before it is, but grabbing that bar the second time, that's just about ensures a plane ticket to Sydney for this young man. Double-double. Yikes.
Sean Townsend is starting to feel it. He's starting to feel the opening ceremonies. Now, last couple of opportunities to put one lasting impression on a Peter Corman, the selection committee, Morgan Hamm.
Well, and if there was one event that Morgan said he was very concerned about, it was vault. It's fairly new for him, and he said, I have to think a great deal on this event.
Both of the Hamm brothers doing new vaults. He does a laid out Rudy here. God, what are they putting in the water up there? I'll tell you.
From Waukesha, Wisconsin. They're not 17. They can't be.
It's remarkable. You know, he really looked a little bit affected with all the pressure the first day, but today he has been one tough cookie. Gets his heels going excellent off the board, has a tremendous amount of power. Way up in the air, good body position, spots the ground, has to pike down a little bit, but you see he's well past that line on the mat, means he has no deduction for distance.
We've been talking all about Jamie Natalie today. It should be noted that Morgan Hamm has actually had 3 scores better than Jamie Natalie here today in Boston. Now to Stephen McCain, like Sean Townsend. Just survive it. Get through it.
You know, Stephen doesn't want to relive the memories of 4 years ago. He told me coming into this competition, I've had Sydney on my calendar for a very long time.
Here we go. Whoa. Nice one-arm sequence here. Has a great look on high bar. He knew he had to control his brain. He knew he had to deal with the pressure. Didn't really do it the first day. Has been doing it all day long.
Like Sean Townsend, Stephen McCain nails it. And he can start thinking about the opening ceremonies. What about John Roethlisberger? Does he have a third Olympics in him? Can he be selected? We'll play it all out in Boston when we come back. At the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts, John Roethlisberger again in a moment of deep concentration. No one has concentrated harder than him today, and it has paid off. After the last rotation, his father Fred met him at the side of the floor exercise and said, "Where have you been?" He has refound his confidence. He has refound it all here today.
Just about as good as he can be all day long. It's a very strong routine for John. Exercise is choreographed around two major elements. First one comes right here, very difficult. Traveling Russian element. A little bit off there. Wow, he was off and he held on. You get the feeling that no matter where John puts his hands today, they're not coming off that horse until he's ready to.
Hey, Tim, he can't say no to a selection. He can't.
Yeah, I can't imagine someone that could. Only John, you know. I just believe that there is a possibility, but
he just fought too hard. He was too good today to say no. Let's go back now in this battle below the top four. Morgan Hamm, a 9.5 on his vault. To see about the number of John Roethlisberger. Well, this is going to be wild. When these gymnasts come out onto the floor and they announce the names. And Roethlisberger 9.475. What do you think, Tim?
Well, you know, it's not what John can do. There's no question about it. He's used to being up in the 9.7, 9.75 range on horse. He opened up the door just a little bit, broke form, but he's a fighter today, no doubt about it. This is the John we're used to seeing.
There's Stephen McCain. How about this number? 9.9 on the high bar. And that after Sean Townsend got a 9.7 on the high bar. So these two guys who had the third and fourth, the final two spots, I mean, they really went out there and grabbed it, didn't they?
They're going. They got one more piece of gymnastics to perform the floor exercise, but both of those guys, very good on those exercises. They're going to Sydney. Now, Al, these are some of the selection committee members right here, and I tell you, they have a very difficult job in front of them. Chris Waller on the far left of your screen right there, former Olympian himself. He represents the athletes. He says he feels like he's competing in the trials himself, couldn't even eat lunch today. They have an amazing task in front of them. Also on that committee, 1996 and 2000 Olympic coach Peter Corman. Feels very strongly that these selection procedures are the absolute best and the fairest to produce the team that can potentially win a medal in Sydney. But this is no easy job. A lot of things to think about here.
And after one more rotation, they will go into a room, as we've mentioned, make the two-spot selection with the alternate, and then they will be announced here on the floor. So Jamie Natalie is one of those gymnasts up for consideration. Tim, quickly, upside, downside of Jamie Natalie.
Well, this is probably one of his downsides. It's really not a strong event for him, vaulting. Every time I've seen him do something today, though, he's done it as well as I've ever seen him do it, if not better. That was tremendous vault, had a lot of power, almost a little bit too much power. Big step on the landing, 0.2 of a point. Remember, we said those 0.2 he lost on still rings, that landing. The 0.2 that he's going to lose here for this big step could cost him, but look at the power, tremendous body position, looks like he's got the distance, just that step on the landing.
So one more rotation to go here at the Fleet Center. We are getting so close to knowing who's going to Sydney. John Roethlisberger in his own Olympic world back at the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts. We've come down to one final rotation. The committee is poised to go into the room and make their selections, but they've all been watching John Roethlisberger compete for years. They know by now what he's all about. This one last rotation is not going to make or break his Olympics, Tim, right?
No, this really isn't going to do that for him. It's going to come down to basically philosophy, and everybody out there in television land, they've been in a room where there was a group of people and they had to come up with a consensus, and sometimes someone just looks at things a little bit differently. You never know, but at this point, I'd be surprised if that guy's not on the team.
All right, so here are the standings. Remember, the top 4 go to the Olympics, guaranteed. After that, the committee will pick 2. Morgan Hamm, Jamie Natalie, John Roethlisberger. 3 into 2 doesn't go. So someone is going to be greatly disappointed before we sign off the air here today from Boston.
Somebody gets a plane ticket to the Olympic Games. That 7th person will travel, but they are not an Olympian. They don't get the warm-up suit. If the team wins a medal, they don't get the medal. They're just there to support, and they're there. If somebody else gets hurt, then they get the call. They're the ones that jumps in.
That seems a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I sure didn't write those rules, and I don't like them at all.
So Morgan Hamm is in that mix. Now, Stephen McCain getting set on the floor. Now, this is one of those moments where if he gets through it and does fine, he'll punch his fist. I mean, that's when it's clinched. When it's over and he can really assess going to the Olympic Games after being so disappointed 4 years ago.
60 seconds away from a dream of a lifetime. Small piece of gymnastics for a lifelong quest right here.
Steve McCain, get your visa. Mom Patricia, she can't believe it. When he was at UCLA in 1994, they took away the gymnastics team. They canceled the sport. He still found a way to keep going. In 96, at these very same Olympic trials, he just missed making the team. Took a little break, but still kept going.
In there, man.
And all this shows that as long as you don't really quit, you can quit and come back. What does that feel like, Tim?
Oh, God. Can't even describe it.
In the 5th spot, the spot of tears, is Morgan Hamm. It's been Hamm, Jamie Natalie, John Roethlisberger, all right there. Their numbers are so close. No one is going to, at least I don't think, get a spot based upon the numbers that they put up in these trials. It's going to come down to, as you said, how the pieces fit.
This is an event where he's had some problems in the past, but just like all day long, Morgan right on top of the game. Step on the landing, but
that's about as good as you're going to do, buddy.
I agree, Stacy Maloney.
You did great. That's going to be great. Wow.
What a day for him. Very, very solid. A 9-2 on the high bar was his worst event. Just to make it official, Stephen McCain on the floor, a 9-6, and there you see the Hamm twins come together. This could be an unbelievably great night for the Hamm family, or it could be excruciating. And one of the things that you factor in is youth versus age. The age of 30.
It's really, you know, we've said it all year long, but it is remarkable that we find ourselves at this place right now with John Roethlisberger potentially making his 3rd Olympic team at 30 years old. When he turned 30 this year, told me he did 30 routines in the gym that day. That's just not right, Al. That's not right. I think I don't know.
But you have to admit that if John could pick an event to end the competition on, this has to be it. He has scored as high as 9.9. He did that at the national championships.
Morgan Hamm finished up with a 9.5. And so these three, Natalie, Roethlisberger, and Hamm,
Okay, John, it's all yours, man. Let's own it.
6 rotations have gone back and forth at each other. The last word from Fred.
Let's put it away.
I'm telling you, though, this guy, he wants to finish in the top 6. He wants to know that he made his 3rd Olympic team the way he made his 1st, the way he made his 2nd. He wants to be in the top 6. That's what has been an Olympian to John Roethlisberger his entire life.
This could be how his gymnastics career ends or how it continues.
Strength right off the bat. One more. Very solid. Big swing combination right here. Nicely done. Dismount, double-double.
I'll tell you, these gymnastics fans at the Fleet Center, they know their stuff. They know what this is all about. And how hard it was for John Roethlisberger to get to the point where he could smile when it was over.
Yeah, this could be really fitting because, you know, we haven't mentioned this before.
We're going to be a little hairy here. Let's see what happens.
This time for sure I'm never doing this again.
The enthusiastic Fleet Center in Boston. John Roethlisberger finishes up 9.675 in these Olympic trials. Now his career is out of his hands. And in a few moments, that is the same situation that Jamie Natalie will find himself in. The NCAA champion from Ohio State has battled with Roethlisberger and Paul Hamm all day long.
All right, Jamie, come on now.
And as Coach Miles Avery says that this is the moment he's been waiting for when he gets to that last event. He wants everyone to see Jamie Natalie on this team.
He's been a little bit frustrated with how Jamie has performed on P-bars as of late. Said this is an event he can get 9.6, 9.7 on. A little bit funky on that first Diamond there. Oh, wow.
Jamie Natalie, who's already talking about going to the Olympics in 2004. Part of the picture for 2000, no doubt. And there is the selection committee. In a matter of moments, they will depart the floor and head into a room. And what happens in there should be interesting. So, the bubble men, Morgan Hamm, Jamie Natalie, John Roethlisberger, to the king, and we'll wrap it up with him.
One of Blaine's best events right here still rings. Excellent position. That's improved quite a bit, that inverted cross.
Nothing like becoming an Olympian. I got to tell you that. 2 more elements. Lane gets to say he did it twice.
With an exclamation mark.
He is the man. Last year at the World Championships, he missed a medal by 1,000th of a point. If he doesn't medal in Sydney, it would be such a disappointment for as good as he's been for so long. One last score to report. Jamie Natalie from Ohio State will finish 5th. He's probably never had as good a day as this in gymnastics. And now with the conclusion of these Olympic trials, the selection committee gets escorted to the room here backstage at the Fleet Center. They will discuss, they will negotiate, they will debate, they will implore, they will decide. 4 spots were automatic. Their job is to come up with 2 more to fill out the 6-man team and then pick an alternate. And this should be amazingly dramatic. Their announcement of who it is will come with all 17 of the gymnasts who took part in these Olympic trials out there for all these thousands of people to see. So they'll close the door and open a couple of Olympic opportunities in a moment.
The U.S. Olympic Gymnastics trials are brought to you by Pontiac Grand Am, proud sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. By Visa, worldwide partner of the Olympic Games. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. By Bud Light, for the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. And by Samsung, wireless, digital, Samsung, everyone's invited.
Here in Boston, the selections have been made, and in a moment they will be announced. The men's gymnastics 2000 Olympic team headed to Sydney. Yuki Tomita, great finish in the trials. That was Trent Wells who injured a knee. But it goes to Blaine Wilson, then Paul Hamm, Sean Townsend, and Stephen McCain, all going to Sydney. But then Jamie Natalie, Morgan Hamm, John Roethlisberger, Yuki Tomita, only 2 more spots to complete the 6-man team.
And I tell you, I don't know what's going to happen, but that man right there, Jamie Natalie, probably had the best meet of his life.
And if this guy, John Roethlisberger, makes the team, I guarantee you, he will motivate this team and do everything in his power to help win a medal. He wants that team medal in Sydney.
What about the Hamm twins, separated by 30 minutes at birth? Are they separated here with an Olympic dream? Say enough about the atmosphere here in this building today for these men who have spent countless days, hours, weeks, and months in a quiet gym to deserve this point. First, the alternate will be announced, and then the 6 Olympic team members alphabetically. And the announcement will be made by the CEO of USA Gymnastics, Bob Colarossi, who is making his way up onto the floor right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bob Colarossi, President of USA Gymnastics.
What a great competition tonight. It's my pleasure to welcome back all of the remarkable athletes who competed in this year's Olympic trials. How about a big round of applause for all of them?
I second that.
Congratulations to all you guys. You truly are the best of the best. First, the alternate for this year's Olympic team. Please welcome Jamie Natalie.
Wow. That's hard. That's a remarkable accomplishment, but that's hard.
Now the moment you've all been waiting for. It's my great privilege to present the men who will represent the United States of America at the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney. In alphabetical order, please welcome Morgan Hamm.
The twins are going together.
Paul Hamm. Stephen McCain.
One more chosen spot still available.
John Roethlisberger.
And that's it right there.
Make it 3.
Don Townsend. And Blaine Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2000 United States of America Men's Olympic Gymnastics team.
Sydney.
Well, they have the perfect blend. Veterans like John Roethlisberger, Blaine Wilson, and the incredible talent of the Hamm brothers. This is a team that can compete on the world stage with the Russians and the Chinese. I think they can medal in Sydney.
Blaine Wilson is the undisputed leader. But the prideful tone of dedication and belief in this team will be set by John Roethlisberger, back in the Olympic Games for a third time.
We represent the greatest country in the world. The way we compete, the way we never give up, the way we're proud of the struggle. And you know, if you're not willing to do everything you can as an athlete for yourself, for your team, for your country, I think you're in the wrong place. All you have to do is give everything you have with that American flag tattooed firmly on your heart, and we're going to be a huge success.